As a responsible person with growing concerns for your privacy and personal liberty, you want to know where we're headed and what you can do about it. We ask the experts what you need to do to take prudent and responsible action to safeguard your family's wealth and well-being, and what basic first steps will help you to be aware and prepared. ReluctantPreppers.com.
Welcome back, Reluctant Preppers. We have a first-time guest tonight with us. Lior Gantz is an editor at wealthresearchgroup.com. He's been called a thrill-seeking entrepreneur by his team and has built and run numerous successful businesses. He's traveled to over 30 countries in the past decade in pursuit of opportunities, gaining valuable knowledge and experience. He is a consultant on such topics as precious metals and stocks and other investments. He's here with us on Reluctant Preppers to talk to us about some of the questions that have been submitted by our listeners and by our editorial staff on some of the considerations for economic survival and wealth preservation for people who seek preparedness. Lior, thank you for joining us here on Reluctant Preppers.
Thank you. I'm very excited to be here.
Our audience is largely interested in being aware and prepared. They're concerned about systemic risks that are present in our debt-based economic system. They're wary of taking on undue counterparty risk, and they see an increasing loss of confidence in the banking establishment and in some of the financial markets and some of the other places that their wealth and well-being could be affected if there were a collapse of confidence in the U.S. dollar or in the stock market or in the derivatives exposure of the banking establishment. So if you could talk to us first just for a couple minutes about your background. I understand you've been involved in the financial industries and in business since an early age, and give us just a minute or two understanding of your experience and sort of your inclination, what makes you unique in the world of financial editorial contributions that you're now in.
Sure. So basically, I got into investing very early. At 16, I was already, getting my parents' approval to run my stock account, and by the age of 22, I was getting heavily involved in managing money for high-end clients. And in 2009, I started a consulting firm for well-to-do clients, and then I followed the resource sector closely between 2008, 2011, and then between 2011 and 2015. And at the end of 2015, with the Fed raising rates for the first time in almost a decade, I realized that this would be a fantastic opportunity to help a broader audience by writing, to know exactly what to do with today's ultra low interest rates environment and with the demographic situation in the Western world, and in general, how to be more emotionally wired and disciplined when it comes to investing, and what's proving to work and what's just out there and is false, misguided. There's so many misinformation out there that you really got to make sure that you know what you're doing. So we launched Wealth Research Group in February of 2016 with the idea of doing something that is similar to what Ray Dalio does at Bridgewater. Ray Dalio is the largest hedge fund manager in the world, and obviously to get in and invest with him is I think it's closed right now to individuals, but it's open to institutions, countries, and sovereign wealth funds. If you have over 100 mil, you can get into it. But the rest of us, we have no way of tapping into what he does. And what they do is they mix the safe and I would say wealth compounding stocks that are out there with astute speculations, and that's what Wealth Research Group does as well.
So if you could give us now your view, turning your attention to the global economic scene and talking a little bit about some of the more serious systemic risks that you see present that could provide pitfalls for uninformed or unaware investors. A lot of people, whether it's a 401k on their job or whether it's trying their own independent investing, trying to take care of their family, are concerned about risks that are present in our current economic structure. And if you could talk to us about your view of where you see the greatest risks that are present in the economy and how that could potentially harm the choices that individual investors might make.
Sure. I think the most important thing to understand, especially if you're afraid of the risks that are inherent inside of this fiat monetary system, is to understand the difference between two things. The government and the central banks run the currency system that we all live under, but they do not run the business world. There are terrific businesses out there, there are terrific companies out there, and there's terrific investments that are out there. The problem is not the businesses themselves. Some companies are exceptional, and they even gained in year-over-year profits even during the Great Depression of 2008, 2009, 2010, etc. So there's amazing opportunities out there. The problem is not with the businesses themselves; it's with the measuring sticks, right? So people are afraid that the measuring stick, which is the U.S. dollar, the way it's managed is not by businesses. It's not by the private sector. It's managed mostly by governments and central banks. They issue it, and then you got also the private sector issuing new lines of credit via mortgages, car loans. Anytime you go into a bank and take a loan or swipe your credit card, you're creating new dollars, obviously, and then the government does that as well. So we got to separate between two fears: the fear that the businesses will not do well, and the fear that the government and central banks will mismanage this system. And I think the main problem is that this system is unmanageable. It came to be as a byproduct, right? So in 1971, at the 15th of August, Nixon temporarily, which is for 45 years, right, temporarily suspended the convertibility of of dollars into gold. The reason he did that, by the way, is because the U.S. has scammed the Bretton Woods system that pegged $35 per ounce of gold since 1944 to create this easier to manage global economy that was emerging after World War II. But since the 60s, they were scamming the system because they needed to fund the Vietnam and Korean War in the 50s and all that. So a lot of governments were asking for an audit, and some were asking for the gold back, like France in 1967, 8, 9, and onwards. So they either had to come clean in 1971, that would cause a worldwide, revealing of the truth, or they can just do politics, and that's what they did. And they basically made the entire economic system fiat monetary system, which means it's based on government. Now, that risk is insane. It's not even worth mentioning because it's so out of our hands and out of our control that it would take a miracle to avoid, and I don't think it's possible. The entire credit system is based on new credit coming in more than old credit being eliminated from the system. If the Western world keeps on doing what it does right now, which is closing down debt levels, then the governments will have to supplement that with more QE, because dollars are being eliminated from the system. I bet your listeners are baffled by how inflation is not raging after all these years of money printing, and it's because the governments only control about 20% of the currency supply. The rest of the 80% is the private sector going out and getting, mortgages, car loans, student loans, all the loans that the commercial banks are allowing. And right now, people are not taking on new debt. In fact, they're trying to close down debts, and that is making the system very deflationary in spite of all these QEs. So that war between the private money, the private sector issuing new credit and not issuing new credit in the last at least 10 years, and the government trying to inflate that back, is the systematic risk that we face. In order to offset that risk, you got to realize that when you hold dollars, cash, savings, those are very much at a systematic risk, because of themselves they are not worth anything. The system runs on faith and credit, and on the ability of the federal government to tax the population. That's what keeps all these systems going. But of themselves, obviously, they have no intrinsic value. So, I'm not saying switch all your cash in your account overnight to other vehicles, but you got to consider other avenues as well. Other sorts of currencies. Obviously, the ultimate money has always been gold and silver, physical bullion and coins. So that would be advantageous. You do live in our world, so you obviously got to have some portion in cash. Otherwise, you can't transact with other people just on convenience levels. And then you got to realize that dollars, gold, silver, physical gold and silver, these are forms of cash, right? Of money, of savings, of purchasing power. But they do not of themselves create and generate riches. So you've got to invest in cash flowing assets as well. And of course, if you're approaching retirement, then this is a major concern for you in this ultra low interest rate world. In fact, here's one more reason why there's a large deflationary force. So let's say you're approaching retirement, right? And you had $1 million set aside, and you said, I'm going to get 5% interest rates from the bank, which is the historical average of banking interest rates. That's $50K a year, and that would supplement your lifestyle. Now, let's say you plan on living right about 20 years from 65 to 85, which is what most people do in the U.S. That's $1 million right there. $50,000 a year times 20 years. That's $1 million that you needed created by interests. Now you can't get it from interest. What do you do then? You're approaching retirement and you're missing $1 million. Are you taking out new debt? Obviously not. You're saving more. So that's why, even though there's zero interest rates and the incentive to borrow money is out there, which is what they're trying to create, people are doing the opposite. They're saving more because they know that they will not be able to fund their retirement on interest payments. That's why Wealth Research Group has issued, and you can see this on our website, Kaiser, on our main tab. There's one button that says wealth stocks, and for retirees, what we did is we found, after looking at hundreds of companies, we found 2 companies that yield 8.5% annually, and we issued a special report about that. That's called Income Champions 8% yield stocks, and you can definitely download that for free on our website and take a look at the type of companies that retirees should be focused on for current income. I think that's very important in this environment.
Now, earlier you were making the distinction, it's a very useful one, between systemic risks of the currency failure and banking failure versus the viability of underlying businesses that may have, you say, the measuring stick. In other words, the currency is the measuring stick of, it's how we keep score, at the units with which we keep score of business effectiveness. But you said the business may be a healthy business, but the actual currency may be at risk. But people have
Sure.
really expressed concern that should the currency fail, or should the banking and credit and bond markets seize up, that would bring most businesses to a grinding halt. Are you seeing some cases of businesses or some classes of businesses that would, in your view, be able to survive and thrive even in situations where there's a currency failure or a banking credit lockup, a bond failure, that sort of thing?
Sure. Look, the first thing to understand is that a dollar crisis is a global crisis, obviously, because 71% of the currency out there in the world is dollars, and about 50% of it is outside the U.S. So any major crisis to the world's reserve currency would mean trouble for businesses worldwide. With that said, you got to realize that in times of major crisis, it's not like we're going back to the Middle Ages again. The solutions are going to be provided quickly, same way as they did in 2008. Not viable solutions, not real long-term solutions, but they will find solutions, because obviously the Western world cannot function without a banking system. The lights would shut out. There would be no electricity. I mean, they've done all these tests in the CIA and onwards on what would happen to a place like New York City with no electricity for 3 days, and they realized like half the population will not survive it. It's a crazy risk, right? So a systematic failure is something that will hurt everyone and everything, because there's no backup plan, obviously. So that is a very important distinction to make, and you probably should have an emergency fund with 1 year's worth of savings, like I have, outside the system, which will get you through it, and never worry about it. If you don't get to use it, that's better, right? It's just a form of insurance that I think most people should consider having, like an emergency fund like that. But anyways, regarding businesses, look, people still need to drink, to eat, to change diapers. They still need medicine, and these companies will still be able to function and weather longer type storms. You're asking very hard questions, because a worldwide crisis has never happened before on the level that you're depicting, and it's very hard to visualize what would happen. But I would say that over the long term, look, the world, the 20th century has seen 2 world wars, flus, epidemics, crises that are unimaginable, hundreds of millions of people dead, and still, the stock market is such a wealth compounding vehicle that there's some things that are built in a capitalistic way for success, and these would be companies that are able to bring value to the marketplace even in times of major crisis. Hopefully it will not happen, but you never know. With regards to speculating and capitalizing on some of the uncertainty in the marketplace that is going on right now, this has been a great year to invest in gold and silver stocks. For instance, with Wealth Research Group, we take these 60-day due diligence periods where we go in and we interview about 150 management teams. We visit many projects, and we find the most proven and vetted management teams with the world-class projects, and we suggest a stock to our free members, and we've had a great track record this year. I believe we're number one at worldwide with regards to our newsletter picks this year. We've had 4 companies that went over 400%. 2 companies that went over 300%, 4 that have doubled only in 2016. And I think our strategy works because we suggest so few companies. We're very meticulous about that, and we take profits whenever we feel it is too positive, and we issue new suggestions whenever we feel that the sentiment is embarrassingly low, right, on gold and silver stocks. And now we're expanding and leveraging our contacts in the resource sector into zinc, cobalt, which is a very futuristic metal. I don't know if you know the uses of it, but they're very wide range. And we're looking into more explosive industries like nanotech and biotech, which are very important for demographics of the Western world. In fact, 80 million people in the U.S. are retiring right now. It's called, obviously, it's the baby boomer generation, and they will expect many medical breakthroughs in their lifetimes to extend their life. And I think there's an incredible opportunity in companies that will be able to revolutionize our health future, I would say.
So for those of our listeners who would want to get some awareness of what your research has revealed may be areas they should pay more attention to if they want to supplement. I mean, you've kind of built up a story where you say, look, having a 1-year emergency fund outside the system is a foundation for the safety of your wealth. And then also you've talked about ways of managing, debt, by reducing debt and that sort of thing, not being able then to turn around and count on if you're on a fixed income or preparing for retirement, that you can't count on the amount of return, the yield that you can get on fixed income type assets, but you're talking about some high yield opportunities. But then in the speculative area, could you clue us in on a few that you are the most bullish on at this time?
Sure. And I think you nailed it with regards to Wealth Research Group. Our goal, our sole goal from day one was to increase the financial fortress of our members and readers. Look, what people should focus on is expanding their knowledge base and taking actionable steps in order to become more fortified and ready for any financial condition. So like you said, people need that insurance, and an emergency fund is one thing, but we also are in the middle of preparing a special report about a very, I would say, a very one-of-a-kind and astute life insurance policy that people can take out that is truly the best in the industry. And any member that will take us to a test drive, listening to this interview in January and February, will start to educate people about that. That is very important for young people as well as retirees. It goes all over. I've never encountered a more beautiful and well-built insurance policy, a life insurance policy, and that will be good for you and your family. And then, like you said, not only insurance, but ways of just saving your hard-earned nest eggs that you've worked on your whole life. We're talking about that at Wealth Research Group, but then also you have to have knowledge on not just how to survive, but how to thrive. And we mix that with our wealth stocks, and you can click on that top tab on our website and view many of the downloads options that we have on companies that have high yield, like 8% or more in one of our reports. And then there's others that we feel are compounding cash machines that you can invest in for 2-3 decades going forward, and have your money beat the S&P 500 by a wide margin, even 100% over the S&P 500. And then you got the speculation side, which smart speculators, or what we call millionaires, which are resource investors who understand the cyclicality and the inherent risks of the business, but are still able to have the discipline to invest in these kinds of companies. And this in 2016 they saw amazing returns. Going into 2017, I would say, Kaiser, I don't know how much research you've put into this, but we've done an extensive amount of research on what happens when the Fed tightens monetary policy like they're doing right now and increases interest rates, and you would find this amazing. But between 1972 and 73, and then in 76 to 79, and then in 2004, 2006, these are the only 3 times in Fed's history where they've tightened monetary policy and hiked interest rates within our fiat monetary system. Every time that has happened, the S&P 500 has suffered immensely because, as you know, interest rates are like weighing machine on asset prices. So stocks tend to fall in valuations into more normal P/E ratios. Historical P/E ratios of the S&P 500 are around 16, and today they're around 25. So this is hyper bubble territory for the S&P 500, and raising rates would lower these prices down to normal. But gold and silver explode on rate hikes on the second rate hike the last 3 times this has happened. And the reason is that inflation is going up when interest rates go up in this fiat monetary system. And the reason is people have more confidence. They go out and they borrow more. In fact, corporations borrow a lot more. Oil prices go up. And then what happens is that the real interest rates, so bond yields minus inflation, stay around negative or 0. And so gold is just exploding higher because the investors realize that even during this time, their money is not is being shaved by inflation. So I'm expecting a very interesting year for precious metals. I am most bullish about zinc personally because it's a classic bull market. There's a supply deficit which is going into 2017. The supply deficit would be at the top. In 2017, the price has gone up 80% in 2016. It's the top performing metal of the year. And with China's demand being so high for zinc, it's the classic bull market. Now, a lot of companies have gone up and enjoyed the rally. And so what Wealth Research Group has done the past 45 days is looked into companies that are now forming and just beginning to trade and have not enjoyed the rally up and therefore are very undervalued. And we actually, I don't know when you will be posting this interview, but we are going to feature our debut zinc company. And I believe the management team of this company can be called nothing else than a dream team of the resource sector next week. So hopefully this interview will be up before then, and people will have a chance to subscribe to Wealth Research Group and check out the type and level and quality of research that we put in when we profile a company for your consideration. So zinc, I am very bullish about. Also, besides silver and gold, I am very bullish about nickel, and uranium could be very interesting in 2017. Coal could be interesting, potash, and cobalt, which is a very futuristic metal with a lot of applications. And the thing about cobalt is, if companies find more cobalt, this would not change the supply to demand ratio, because more supply would equal more utilities, more products that can be produced by cobalt. It would find more avenues to bring to the market. It's such a unique metal. Anyways, it's a very exciting 2017 that we're going into. And I would also say Wealth Research Group is going to profile for the first time nanotech and biotech companies.
That's quite a list and a range. And again, I know a lot of our audience will be leery of any recommendations to consider stocks. We talk a lot here about counterparty risks. Not only you mentioned the currency earlier, but also the fact that you're got to go through your broker, you've got to go through the actual company itself, and that sort of thing. But you're pointing out that as part of a layered strategy, where people do have a foundation of a wealth that's held outside the system, and some additional layers that are not as dependent on the performance of the bond market or even the average stocks of the stock market, there can be a place if people want to seek some higher returns in the interim on some of these carefully chosen companies. So
here's the thing, Kaiser. Here's the thing. If there's a crisis, a major crisis, by listening to a show like yours and by being in the know, you are going to be well prepared in advance for a crisis. You're not going to be one of those people that are last to the party and last to know about it and unprepared. So it's not like a crisis happened overnight without any warning. There's such instances, right? But you're prepared for those. In the interim, like you said, there's short periods of a few months that you can make investments into stocks. And obviously, if you need to liquidate and you're fearful that your broker himself is going out of business, then that's part of the due diligence you need to do about your brokerage. There's quite a few brokerage houses that are very that are rock solid. But I would say it's anything's a risk, right? In life, you can step out of the house and somebody would mug you, would rob you, etc. Life is full of risks. You got to ask yourself what the worst case scenario is with regards to everything in life, and take everything under proportion. If there's a worldwide crisis, then obviously you're not going to gold and silver stocks or just stocks in general are going to be the least of your problems. You're going to think about how to make sure you protect yourself and your family. So obviously, I'm not talking about those types of environments. I'm talking about if we experience a 2017 that is much like 2016, where you wake up in the morning, you're fearful, you're cautious, you're worried. There's stuff to take care of, but as a whole, the world is functioning and everything is moving forward.
And that's part of what a lot of our subscribers are interested in, is they'll take significant steps in their lives to become more self-reliant, self-sufficient, and less dependent on sustaining for their vital, food, water, electricity, that sort of thing, and also taking a significant amount of their finances outside the system. But some still remain quite interested in knowing about opportunities to profit along the way. Simple example, about 2 months ago, no, less than that, 6 weeks ago, we had a cautionary advice from David Morgan from the Morgan Report about a potential drop in precious metals prices because of the Commitment of Traders report, and Mike Maloney of goldsilver.com, similar warning. My wife and I looked at it and said, hey, let's at least purchase some puts against the GLD to offset exposure we have on the physical side, and we were able today to close out that position and at many multiples of what we had started at. So if the markets had gone completely belly up in the meantime, we would have been out that small sort of hedge stake that we put towards there. But we thought, why not at least take advantage of an opportunity that in the short term, and what we'll turn around to do is use that to increase the precious metals ownership. So in a way, by doing things in bite-sized pieces, you can then, and I know Gregory Manarino, who we've also had on our channel, has talked about that, is pull profits out of the market that you can make now by astute trading opportunities, and if you want, plow those back into more hard assets that increase as you mentioned, your financial fortress. So, before we wrap this up, Lior, do you have any final words for our subscribers on where they can find out more about your work and what's available to them if they'd like to take a look?
Definitely. So you talked about bits and pieces and making small speculative positions. That's one of the 5 timeless principles of investing success. It's called position sizing. And if you go to our website and on the top menu, you'll see a special reports tab. Why don't you click on that? That is our best research for somebody who's just taking a look for the first time. There's many options of downloads there. We talk about fortressing, which is our strategies for retirees and what they should do. There's a lot of information about the resource sector, gold, silver, zinc, etc. There's information about the 5 timeless principles of success, and I think every investor should take a look at that and read that through over the weekend, because by far more than any stock suggestion or any one suggestion that I can give, if people know the 5 principles of investing success and what's worked and proven for any environment, they will just be better off. And I would say that is the best place to begin.
And where exactly will they go on your site to find this?
Sure. So this is wealthresearchgroup.com. And then at the top menu, you're going to see wealth stocks, and then you're going to see special reports. I would say just browse over there, find one of the PDF files that you're most excited about, download it, and take a look. This is by far, every word in there is a wealth of information, and it's geared towards helping you becoming a better investor, a better saver, and more prepared for any economic environment that we've talked about today. And the systematic risk is absolutely viable. I don't think anyone is being paranoid when he says that there can be a repeat of 2008. And personally, another thing that I've done is to mitigate risks by being very politically diversified. So I have accounts and assets in more than one country, and I have my gold and silver physical in more than one location, one country. So that is, I believe that is a very good strategy for people, and it's fairly easy to do. And we talk about that at Wealth Research Group, how to get started on making sure that your assets are politically diversified, not only diversified between different assets, but between different locations in the world.
Very good. Lior, we have to leave it there for now. But for those who would like to follow up with you, they can go to wealthresearchgroup.com. And we just wanted to thank you very much for joining us here on Reluctant Preppers.
Thank you very much for having me, and I think you're doing a wonderful job for your listeners.